Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University, Moon Knight, issue number 18. It's a dark and stormy night outside. If you can hear that wind, jeez, freaking Ontario, man, getting the worst kind of storms. This issue is called Party Monster, and it was pretty good. It's an ending I was more than familiar with, but I'm not mad at it because it's a freaking amazing ending. Let's talk about who made this comic book. We'll go on from there. So the writer is Jed MacKay, the art is Federico Sabatini, color art is by Rachel Rosenberg, and letters by VC's Corey Batik. Cover artists Stefan Segovia and Rachel Rosenberg, and there's a couple of variant covers out there. All in all, like I said, really good issue. But that ending, man, I'm pretty sure I read that someplace. I'll spoil it later. So Moon Knight and Tiger go into this vampire hall in New York City, and Tudor, the head vampire there, is leading things, and he's like, hey, I'm here. I'm going to kill all you guys. We are going to kill all you guys. Tiger is basically being called a sidekick or ignored completely. That's not always a good thing to do with Tigra. What do you call it? The vampire just starts talking about, I'm going to do this to you, we're doing this, and you should, let us go, and whatever, you know what, like, are you stupid? There's a whole bunch of us here, and everybody's just kind of sitting there, and they're being very cool. Look, I get it. I genuinely do. I get it. For all intents and purposes, this is new Marvel. This is a new Marvel universe, and these are new Marvel vampires. But I mean, when push comes to shove, when did vampires get so tame where they can all just sit down and continue eating whatever the hell it is that they're eating? You'd imagine it's like super rare steak, barely passed through a warm room, right? Like, what the frick happened here exactly? They're all just sitting there patiently waiting while everybody's talking. Anyway, so that's what's happening. And Tudor's talking, and then at one point Moon Knight is talking, and there are threats made in both regards back and forth. And meanwhile, Soldier is downstairs, and he's talking about the stuff that he did with AIM, and he's basically doing something to cause the sprinklers to go off. Now look, bit of a spoiler here. One of the greatest comic books I've ever read was Jeff Johns' 2002 Hawkman series. The guy loves the character, clearly, and he did something with the character that few people have done before. He really made Hawkman an indelible character in the DC universe, all right? Why am I talking about this? Because the final issue that he did was issue number 24. Once issue 25 came out, they didn't want to end the series because, oh my God, Hawkman was actually selling. So later on, you'd get Walter Simonson doing the series, and a whole bunch of, like, Ed Brubaker did a couple of issues and stuff like that. But the very first issue after Jeff Johns left the series was issue number 25. It was written by, what the heck was that guy's name? Josh Siegel, I think it was. He just did this one issue. Josh Siegel, but the art was by John Byrne. I always say Jim Byrne. Why does that happen? Anyway, John Byrne. So right there, people were just like, Byrne is on the book. I'm going to read it, right? I'm going to at least look at it. It goes back into a time when Hawkman, ancient Egyptian character, much like Moon Knight with the whole Khonshu thing. Ancient Egyptian character. He's gone through multiple lives, right? He died and has been resurrected. Moon Knight, I hear you, bud. I hear you. And one of his lives was as a priest of some sort. I think he was a bishop, actually. And it's too funny, man. He, Hawk Girl gets kidnapped, and he's got to go and rescue her from a vampire lord. And he's turning all the tenants of this apartment building into vampires. It's like, dude, that's not cool. Why would you do that? What a jerk, right? All this to get back at Hawkman for something that he did in a past life. Vampires live a long time, and they remember your previously incarnated bodies. And what's his name? Hawkman is just walking through this apartment building looking for, it's like, it's an apartment building. He's got him. It's like, you can't fly in here. You can't do all the things that you like to do. You can't even spread your wings really in here. He's walking through and he's like whispering something, and nobody knows what he's whispering. At some point you're reading it, trying to say, what is he doing? And at the end, you come to realize, and here's where the big spoiler is, that he was praying the whole time. See, in that former life, he was a priest. So he's still technically a priest or bishop, whatever, in this issue, or in this life, because he remembers it. And he's been saying prayers, blessing the water in the pipes. So at the end, the vampire's about to kill him, and he can't spread his wings, he can't do a whole lot. He pulls a flare out of his one of his pockets and fires it up, hits the fire sprinkler system, whatever, and the water starts coming down. It's holy water. Just melts all the vampires. And like, there's a much bigger story there. And it was like, holy crap, because there's a big deal going on. Like, Hawkgirl was actually bit, and she could have turned into a vampire. And would he have actually killed her if this happened or if that happened? And it's like, oh, such a good. And it's like, Hawkman is such a cold-blooded asshole, you know. And it was like there was so much there. It was such a great story. This as something of a standalone, but not really. This didn't quite compare to that, even though I'm comparing it because I'm telling you where the actual original story came from. But man, oh man, the thing that this comic book did for me more than anything else was remind me of that story, which brought more like nostalgia to me. I'm not mad at it, but what I will say is this: for all intents and purposes, I really do wish that this was a slightly different ending, but I can't be mad at the ending because, it's a damn good story. Why not reuse something that happened in the comic books before? It sucks with somebody like me who's read so many comic books, who has so much comic book lore, history behind me, but it is what it is. If you've never read that Hawkman story before, issue number 25 of the 2002 run, I think that you'll absolutely love it, and it might give you a good understanding of who Hawkman is. Go back and read the previous 24 issues also by Jeff Johns and understand how he's a really cool character. That said, if you're listening to this review, you probably already know how cool Moon Knight is, and regardless, it's one of those things I really like. I know it's probably never going to happen, but a Marvel and DC crossover where, hey, look, Hawkman and Moon Knight are hanging out with each other. Do you think I would complain about something like that? Imagine how much they could do with this. Hawkman talking about how, I'm going to be off the comic book for a bit. Hawkman talking about all his past lives and how he did this and that. In ancient Egypt, he was Prince Khufu, and here's Shayara. She was actually his princess at the time, and they were going to be married, but Hasset came along, and all sorts of things. And what role could Mark Spector have played in all of that back in the day? Because, of course, Mark Spector would have been reincarnated from something. He wouldn't have known it, but it would explain Khonshu's affinity towards Mark. Maybe it's not the first time he's been resurrected. Maybe there's somebody there who looked just like a guy who Prince Khufu, Hawkman, Carter Hall, who we'd seen a long time ago. Like back then, it's like, I know your face, and then just he was there. Maybe somehow he was reincarnated, but put in a different universe. And now we'll never know. We can only speculate. Dude, how sweet would that be? To me, that would be epic. That would just be epic. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not going to turn this into a love of Hawkman review, but I will say, this comic book mostly made me happy because it brought me back to some really great Hawkman stories. As far as this issue by itself, I think it was a great surprise because, Tiger saying, I just got my, it would be nice to sing shing like that, but, she's like, I just got my nails done. Silver-tipped caps. Okay, cool. So she's going to start killing some vampires. On top of that, Moon Knight just for some reason starts saying, brother, give me my silver and take your vengeance. And I'm like, what? And all of a sudden, a Kopesh, I guess it's a silver Kopesh, shock, slams from the roof, from the ceiling, down into the ground so that Moon Knight can pick it up and start tearing people up. I'm just going to spoil it. I'm going to tell you. If you don't want spoilers, turn this off right now because I'm just going to spoil this and I'm going to end the video. Here it comes. Spoilers. You should have gotten rid of this by now. If not, life sucks. Hunter's Moon comes back. I kind of expect him to be going a little bit longer, but superheroes, they get better. So it was really cool seeing Hunter Moon come back. And it's like, it's like, I never understood why you talk so much. And then it turns out that there's a spy there. There's a human there who's I guess he's supposed to be like a ghoul or a ghoul. And he's actually from Chernobyl. It's weird, like, how can they have known? Like, if Tiger would have said, I smell, the radiation on him, da-da-da-da-da, whatever. Like, just something along those lines. It would have been cool. But anyway, they just right away assumed this comic book just ended so quickly. So quickly. Jed MacKay is a fantastic writer. I don't know if he's kind of slowing down with this Moon Knight series as it is. Maybe he's just kind of, he's got too many projects going or he's working on something else. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But, like, this wasn't a standalone issue. It takes me back to that one standalone Hawkman. Issue number 25 was completely standalone. Different author in the previous issue, different author in the issue afterwards. And that story was not a continuation of anything. It was a standalone issue. It could have been put out as a one-shot. Might as well have been. And it was a standard length, right? 20, 22 pages. I think there were 20 pages back in the day. And yet the standalone issue, it had everything completely confined and there was no rush to the story. What the hell soever. And here it is that we've got a story that's continued and yet it felt so rushed. Like, this is a story arc and it felt so rushed. Why? Why wasn't there more there? Why wasn't, we grabbed this guy. Obviously he's he's a human. Obviously he's a spy from Chernobyl. Hey man, what did Dracula give you to, turn on your own? You know what? I don't even care. How about you just simply go back? I'm going to let you live. You're going to go back and you're going to tell Dracula, we're coming for him, man. Yeah. What? We didn't even hear from him. He just goes, that's all we see. Like, he called him a Renfield. I mean, that's great if you read the original Dracula story, but I mean, come on. I just felt like it was just rushed so much. Again, I liked this issue, but mostly because of what it reminded me of that Hawkman issue, number 25. But like, this issue in itself, it was rushed. It wasn't amazing. There were elements there that could have been, though. I don't know. Good job, Jed. But it could have been a great job. I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those things like rushing, getting some things done. But like the quality, the degradation of quality really showed in this. I'd have liked to see more. I think that as fans, we deserve a whole lot more. But it is what it is. I want to see these issues start picking up again and being great. Since I already spoiled so much of this comic book, I'll tell you exactly what happens at the very end. A lawyer, psychologist, prison guy, whatever, shows up and he's talking in a penitentiary, talking to somebody, and it turns out it's Zodiac. I mean, I kind of saw it coming when he didn't want to say his name and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, gee, I imagine. I wonder. Hopefully this means that Jed's going to start telling some good stories again, because this was the original bad guy in this run, 18 issues ago. Hopefully we wind up seeing this story get a lot better again. Hopefully this is exactly what Jed needs to pick up the stories again. I don't know. Either way, this series needs to get a lot better. Otherwise, it is going to be canceled. I mean, and that would suck. For me, that would suck. Because I'm happy to see Moon Knight keep going out there and kicking butt and taking names. But we got to stop rushing through stories. I mean, there's plenty of breathing space to tell these stories. Make them longer if you need to. Do what you got to do, but don't rush through stuff. Anyway, guys, I'll talk to you all later. Like the video, watch an ad. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.